Welcome to the Nerds and Friends podcast. We are very excited to have Tanner Kerrins joining us, talking about his brand new book, Dark Sands and Sweethearts, which, it just came out, this week, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was, on Amazon Prime. You can get it now.
My copy's coming in tomorrow. I bought it, and so I was hoping it'd be here today so I could hold it up on the podcast, but it gets in tomorrow, so I'm excited for that.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, let's just dive in, because I know that you were on set last night. You were also an actor, and you were a returning guest on the podcast. You've been on here before, which is awesome. So one of our elite returning guests. But so first, tell us what the book is about, and then I have kind of some questions about what's different from your first book, Run Program, which came out about a year ago, right?
I think about a year ago. That sounds right.
Nice.
um, yeah, but to talk about Dark Sands and Sweethearts, I love science fiction. It is a science fiction adventure story following three young adults who are trying to figure out themselves. But yeah, they get into a lot of hijinks. It also takes place in Trolley, Ireland. I'm a
Oh,
fan of Ireland. My last name is Irish. I have ancestors from Ireland.
that's
Um,
cool.
but yeah, I like to describe it as sort of my version of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a very wacky science fiction adventure,
Nice.
but I like to think that there's a lot of heart in there as well.
That sounds awesome. And these characters, they're all kind of younger, right? 20s or 30s, yeah, going around.
Yeah, roughly about the same age. I think sort of projecting myself onto the page.
That's awesome. Now, have you been to that part of Ireland before? Was that an inspiration having been there and visited?
I have. So I was told that again, I have ancestors from there. So when I got to visit, toured the place. I actually found there is a statue in a tiny little park in Trolley, Ireland for I believe it's my great grandfather Charles Kerrins.
Wow,
Um, and yeah, there was a lot of history behind that I was learning. Um, I want to go back. Ireland's a fun place.
that's really cool. I'd love to travel there sometime.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what did your great grandfather do such that a statue was made for him? That's fascinating.
So to my knowledge, again, I probably need to do more research on it. To my knowledge, he was a revolutionary in the Black and Tan Wars.
Oh wow.
It was like for anyone who is unfamiliar with that, it was you know one side of Ireland, like the north and south, and a lot of them were debating, if you will, between joining a kingdom, the United Kingdom, and I believe it's the South with Trolley Ireland that wanted to be very independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That's neat history. We should Will, my co-host on the podcast, he couldn't be here today. He's got a scheduling conflict, but um we could maybe do a deep dive on the history and have you back and do a history deep dive, because we
Oh,
do
that
those
would,
once in a
yeah,
while. That'd be really fun. So yeah, because Will does a lot of research into history and stuff, so that could be really fun.
totally, yeah. I
Awesome.
myself love history, and just hearing about that, especially with like my family connection, I was like, oh, this is
Yeah,
so cool.
that's fascinating. Yeah, my I think you've done table reads for my Lost Colony screenplay, right? Yeah, you
Yes.
played Ananias Dare. When I was researching that story, I found out that one of the ships that brought the colonists over, it was built really well, so it stayed in use for over 100 years after that. And
Wow.
I think on my dad's side, one of his grandparents, their ancestors immigrated from Sweden to upstate New York on that same ship. And I was like, oh, that's random. Okay. So
Yeah,
it's fun when you're researching for something and there's a family connection. So
totally.
that's really cool. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have a setting of a place you've been and it captivates you, putting characters that are a projection of yourself to some degree in there is already a good story. What made you want to add a sci-fi element to this book?
Um, I I've always sort of enjoyed science fiction. In the words of my uncle, it's a great way to analyze society in sort of a creative lens.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think that this book being science fiction, I mean, a lot of I don't think it spoils anything. I have my test copy with me.
Ooh, yeah. I love that
Um,
cover, by the way. It's so cool.
yeah. Yeah, it's the
It's
guitar in
awesome.
the desert spaceship.
It's awesome.
Uh, but I think having it set, um, yeah, I don't think it spoils anything. Having this science fiction element and having some of the book take place in space, is a great way to sort of pull these young adults away from society and just see again how they interact, how they're growing up, and uh, how they're changing in their young adult lives.
That's really cool. Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
analyze them in a situation that none of us have really been in before,
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
really
I
cool.
would say that I took my spaceship out today, but yeah, it was
Someday, someday.
someday.
Well,
Uh,
that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to read it. I'm really excited. And yeah, my copy comes in tomorrow, which is great. So
that's
the
great.
link will be in the video or the episode if you're listening description, the link to go buy it on Amazon. I've got to ask, like, so since your first book came out a year ago and this is your follow-up book, like what are some things you did differently for the second book based on what you learned from publishing your first book?
So that's actually a bit of a funny question because this was actually technically the first book I wrote.
Oh,
Um, but I love the story behind it, so I thought this book was lost to eternity. Um, th sorry, this is way more of an answer than what you were looking for, but,
I'm excited.
I actually got robbed on a business trip,
Whoa.
and I lost I'm using a new laptop, but I lost my old laptop,
Oh
which
no.
had this copy. Again, it was the first one I wrote. To sort of answer your question, I think I used more of what I learned from writing this book to write the one I already published, Run
Oh,
Program.
okay.
Um, just going through the process of self-publishing, that was a bit easier with this one. Um, but I got lucky and found this, I found a draft of this story,
Oh,
like,
good.
hidden away in my email,
Oh,
um,
that's awesome.
but I
That's
would
such a
say
relief because that's like
yeah,
every writer's nightmare is to like put your work into something and then have it like lost. Ugh.
yeah, but, yeah, it's sort of a funny question because I would say it's more so the reverse. This one was much more a learning experience for the book I've already published, Run Program.
Okay. Wow, that's cool. That's why I like to ask questions like that because like every writer's journey from story inception to like publishing, it's almost always different, which is really cool.
Right, right.
That's awesome. Well, I know the two books, they both kind of deal with sci-fi elements, but like Run Program deals with more AI and technology. Are
Definitely.
these books in the same universe or are they linked in any way or are they both standalone books?
I would say they're very much standalone books. I think the last time I was on your podcast, I talked about wanting to make a science fiction epic.
Yeah,
That one I'm still working on. I would love to actually have like a trilogy
that'd be cool.
of science fiction stories, but these ones are very much on their own separate universes.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Um,
Well, with Dark Sands and Sweethearts out, I can't wait to read it. Everyone who's listening should check it out because I mean that cover is great. I just love the concept of character analysis using science fiction and situations that like no one we know has been in to like analyze who these people are and like where they're going in life. That
yeah.
sounds really cool. So I can't wait to read it. What are your plans for future books besides a sci-fi epic? Like what are some things on the horizon for you as a writer or as an actor?
Well, as an actor, hopefully I can answer that. Hopefully things are gonna be picking up. I think you can relate to this, just having to go through a strike.
Yeah,
Um, of course, someone with a leaf blower is blowing right now.
classic podcasting scenario, but I
Yeah.
barely can hear it, so it's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, in regards to acting, I mean, I'm told from inside sources that things are getting greenlit behind the scenes.
yeah,
Um, as for books, I would also love to I've always loved historical fiction as well.
yeah.
Maybe that's another one to add to my to-do list.
That'd be cool. That'd be
Yeah.
really neat. Would you want to do something about the Black and Tan War or something more distant even in the past if you wrote historical
I
fiction?
would actually say something closer to home.
Okay.
Um, the Black and Tan War, again, my knowledge of that is very limited. I was not born in Ireland. If any Irish are listening to your podcast, I hope they understand that I am just a writer interested in Ireland.
Yeah.
Um, but for a historical fiction book, I actually started writing a draft. I want it to be set in like 1930s San Francisco,
Ooh.
just because I feel like it was a very unique time. I mean, you have the turn of the financial crisis, farming. I know there was going through hurdles with environmental issues. It feels like a lot was going on that I could just talk about in the book there.
That'd be really neat. Yeah, and I feel like that's a time that like I mean, with my basic knowledge of American history, I know that's coming right off the Great Depression and that it was a
Yeah,
financial and cultural hub in that area. So, getting into the nuance of that would be really neat. That'd be a really cool book to write.
yeah, but that one's definitely on the horizon. I still got a
Nice.
lot of work to do.
That's cool. Yeah, well, not to pivot from books too much into acting, but
Mhm.
I've been doing more acting work in Colorado lately, which was unexpected. Like a lot of stuff filming in Denver and some stuff in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be hearing back today. I might be scoring a project in Albuquerque. And
Wow.
a lot of productions since the strikes, like more than I saw, that are on the lower budget side, are
Mhm.
putting money aside for like covering travel costs for actors. Because I feel like a lot of the production's kind of moving so it's not as centralized in Los Angeles, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's been your experience like since the strikes? Has it just been pretty slow? Like not a lot of projects greenlit?
It's definitely been pretty slow. It sounds like compared to other locations, Albuquerque, Colorado, it feels like there's definitely a lot of, like, I don't wanna say bureaucracy or sound conspiratorial. It just sounds like a lot of meetings behind the scenes,
Yeah,
um, dragging out the process, but, I have been able to get on sets like we just talked about. I was on set all last night.
yeah,
That
that's
was
good.
for a non-union vertical production. I
It,
don't know if you've
I've been
heard of
seeing casting calls for vertical stuff
it.
lately, and I haven't booked any yet. But like,
Yeah.
is that where are they trying to market it to where it's ideally viewed on mobile devices? Is that kind of the
Yeah, um, I was, like, completely new to this, but apparently it's pretty popular right now.
oh,
If anyone remembers Quibi, that was a app that was proposed by is it Katzenberg? But
not
it's
sure.
like a film or show, full-length film, full-length show, seen in a vertical format on your phone.
Interesting,
And I guess there was a lot of companies from overseas that are bringing over that type of content.
interesting.
Um, but yeah, I've been on those for a while. This was probably my 10th production, 10th
Nice.
vertical production. Yeah.
I figure that would cut down. I'm thinking in my producer head now, like it would cut down on some set dressing and background because you have a much
Yeah,
more limited field of view. But I don't like
definitely.
I've had to watch stuff on my phone if I'm like traveling and stuff, and I always just do that.
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
yeah,
No, but apparently it's popular.
interesting.
I'm friends with one of the producers, and they talked about, gosh, sorry,
I was gonna
the
say I picked it up there a little bit, but your computer mic's filtering out most of it, which is good.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank God. This $100 laptop on Amazon is saving me.
As you know, when you're recording audio that like draws in leaf blowers and planes, it's like a black hole that just pulls everything
Uh,
in, everything noisy.
Dude, it's so funny. I have like PTSD reactions to planes flying overhead for my friends who are not in the film industry, and they're like, "What?
Yep,
It's a plane." I'm like, "I know, but the sound, like."
yep. I'll even be making like a TikTok on my phone, and I'm just like, hold for plane, and I'm like, wait, there's no one here. It's just me. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. That's why I've been trying to do more music videos lately because shooting MOS is just the best. No
I
sound,
can
no
imagine.
audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
One more note on verticals. That's
yeah,
like the main hurdle. I have never seen a production go through as many sound people and have
really.
such a difficult time with a boom pole because it's mainly logs.
Oh,
You have so much vertical space. You can't like get close to them.
oh yeah, and boom op's already like the hardest job, like or one of the harder jobs. So yeah, having to like angle it from the side,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
okay. So that's the con based on the pros I mentioned about
yeah.
peripheral image stuff. Okay, wow, that's interesting. And
Um,
Are they filming on a camera and like converting to vertical, or are they filming on like phones?
oh no, they're filming on like I've seen at least the companies I've worked with have been putting money into like Arri Alexas, like really
Wow.
high-end cameras. They just have these rigs where they're basically on their side.
Oh wow. Okay, that's weird.
It's yeah.
Well,
Um,
that's different. Okay.
so yeah, I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, something's off here.
Wow. Yeah, that's unique. I learned something new today. That's really cool. That's awesome. Old relief blower.
Overly
Um,
floor. I should have closed my window before
oh,
this.
it's fine. It's not picking it up much, and I go through and do like noise reduction in post and everything. I'm getting better
Gotcha.
since the last time you've been on the podcast. I've upped my post game a little bit, so
Oh no.
it's nice. Yeah, getting that DaVinci Resolve going. But
Yeah.
um, I had a question. So with your books that you've published so far, if you were to make live action adaptations of those, who would you cast as the main characters? If you have like actors in mind, that's just kind of a fun one I do with some authors.
Yeah. Um,
Leaf
this is
blower
gonna,
guy is going to be
yeah.
the villain, of course.
Anyone who's watching this is not gonna like be able to enjoy it. Anyone who hears it is probably gonna
That's
enjoy
cool.
it. They're
Mission
literally,
accomplished. Love it.
they're literally at my front door, just
What?
blowing. Yeah, but your question about possibly making a live action and casting it,
Yeah,
um, that's a good question. I would love to make a live action of Dark Sands and Sweethearts, even Run Program, the
yeah,
first book that was published. Um, I wouldn't know who to cast. I mean, like I have an idea of the characters in my head.
yeah,
Um, I think I just need to have a production meeting
yeah.
and bring
And
in the
like hold
cast.
auditions and bring people in that you haven't seen before, right?
Definitely.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, this one I also think I want to get into like international filming, and I feel like this
Nice.
one is, I mean, taking
Yeah,
place in Ireland.
that makes sense. Well, yeah, actually, that's a good pivot to like, what's your process for like envisioning characters? Because like for me, a lot of the time I'll envision either an actor who gave a performance that I liked and is kind of adjacent to how I envisioned the character, or someone I know in real life. And then as I write them, they kind of morph into their own distinct person. But I'll usually have a starting point of like a fantasy cast actor or a person I know. What's
Yeah,
your process with envisioning the characters you write?
I think I do something similar. I for Run Program, I know I definitely had like a friend in mind,
Nice.
who plays the main character Doris. I like how I say plays, like it actually is
Yeah.
production.
Yeah.
Um, but that one I actually had a person in mind. For Dark Sands and Sweethearts, I think I just had like an image of a general character. Um, whether that's their style, their way of life. But I never like associated a face with them. Never a face
Oh,
that like was a friend of mine or an actor that I knew. Um, so somehow it turned out where I have several different characters. Actually, I'm gonna backtrack and say I can think of two characters in this book that are inspired by like Monty Python characters.
oh, okay, nice.
They're sort of goofy, yeah. Um, but yeah, my I would say my process changed from book to book, just how I thought of the characters.
That's cool. That's cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating how like you you take stuff from each book, but then you also vastly change your approach because like you don't want to do the same thing twice, you know? So it's yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, Tanner, this has been a great conversation. I can't really think of too many more questions, and I mean, I can't wait to read the book when I get it in tomorrow. And yeah, man, this is so cool. I'm glad you're on set acting and writing.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best, man. This is awesome.
No, yeah, living the dream, man, and
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear you're doing work. I mean,
yeah.
I see it on Instagram every so often when you post.
I was in a movie where I got to play a like a Russian mobster who gets shot in the head. And that was fun. I've never had an on-screen death before, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Are you gonna? I mean, surely you got to put that in your reel.
Oh yeah, as soon as, I mean, they're just my scenes edited raw for like the demo reel, like optimized, and I was like, that's awesome. So,
Nice.
because I have another scene from a movie where I got to get footage of me playing not bad guys because those are the ones that I've gotten the most footage of. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping to build my demo soon, but once I
Okay.
get a couple more scenes for it. So
Totally.
yeah, I'm stoked,
Totally.
but it's been fun. So
Yeah.
yeah,
um. Yeah, I'm trying to think of something else I can say for your podcast though. I also wish I had my I think I ordered like the actual um what's it called on Amazon? It's like the
like the
author
author
copy.
copy.
Yeah, that one same thing is coming in tomorrow and I was like, darn
Nice.
it.
I yeah. Well, no, it's good to have plenty on hand because, like, the way they do it with Amazon, with just any authors watching this, like, when you buy them and you're the author, you
Mhm.
just basically are covering the shipping and printing. Otherwise, it tends to be very cheap. And so, if you have those and you meet people and tell them you're an author and are like, "Would you like a copy of my book?" Usually, if they give you even $10 cash, you're making a profit.
Yeah.
So, like, I keep a bunch in my trunk. Like, I'm going to Gen Con, like a big convention to run D&D games professionally next month,
Wow.
and so I'm gonna have a bunch of books with me in case anyone wants to buy copies. So it's
Totally.
a nice opportunity. So yeah, well, thanks for coming on the podcast the morning after being on set. That is a big give. So I appreciate it because I've had many of those mornings where the next day I'm like, I was on set for 15 hours. I don't want to do anything
Oof.
today. So especially not get serenaded by a leaf blower while you try to answer
Yeah.
questions about your new books. So
Of course they stop now. Probably gonna
of course.
pass out right after.
Well, you have earned it, my friend. So thank you for being on Nerds and Friends again. This was awesome. Can't wait to read Dark Sands and Sweethearts. Everyone watching, the link is in the video description or the episode description. Go buy it on Amazon now, and it'll get there the day after you want it, just like we're doing. So
Thank you
awesome. Thanks for
guys.
coming
Thank you
on,
for
Tanner.
having me, Josh.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.